If you receive Social Security, SSI, or SSDI, you need to hear this. December payments are not following the usual schedule this year, and a lot of people are waking up wondering why they suddenly got an extra check or why their payment didn't arrive when they expected. So let's clear this up right now, because the changes this month are real, they're confusing, and they're affecting millions of Americans. The big question people keep asking is, are we really getting 3 checks in December? And the answer is, it depends, and the reason behind it is something most beneficiaries don't know. Between the shifted holiday payment, the early disbursement cycle, and the COLA adjustment moving into place, December is becoming one of the strangest payout months we've seen in a long time. On top of that, the new COLA update for next year is already showing early signs of how much your benefits could rise or not rise depending on inflation trends. And trust me, the latest numbers are not what anyone expected. If you're trying to keep track of what's coming, when it's coming, and whether you're supposed to get 1 payment, 2 payments, or 3 payments, you're in the right place. I'm going to break down the new schedule in simple terms so you know exactly what to expect before the month ends. But before we jump in, go ahead and tap that like button so more people can get the information they need. Let's get started. If you're watching this right now, chances are you're trying to make sense of what's happening with your Social Security benefits this December. And honestly, I don't blame you, because the schedule this month is one of the most confusing we've seen in years. People are getting payments earlier than usual, some are seeing more than 1 deposit, and others are worried they were skipped entirely. It's the kind of thing that causes panic fast, especially for those who depend on their monthly benefits to cover rent, groceries, medications, and everything else. So let's take a deep breath and walk through this together, because once you understand what's going on behind the scenes, everything starts to make sense. The first thing you need to know is that December is always a strange month for Social Security payments because of the way the calendar falls. Whenever a payment date lands on a weekend or a federal holiday, the Social Security Administration automatically moves it. Sometimes that means beneficiaries receive their money earlier than expected. Other times it means the payment shifts into a different month entirely. And that is exactly what's happening right now. The combination of the holiday schedule and the upcoming COLA adjustment has created a situation where some people will see 3 payments land in December instead of just 1 or 2. Now, before anyone gets too excited or too worried, let me be very clear, this doesn't mean the government is sending out bonus checks or extra benefits. Instead, what's happening is that the January SSI payment is being shifted backwards into December, because January 1 Street is a federal holiday. When that day falls on a holiday, Social Security is required to issue SSI payments early, and in this case, that early date is landing in December. This is why people who receive SSI will get their regular December payment, and then, at the end of the month, another payment that counts as their January benefit. In other words, it looks like 2 checks, but one actually belongs to next month. But here's where things get even more confusing. Some people receive both SSI and Social Security retirement or disability benefits. And if that's you, you may be seeing 3 separate deposits in December: your SSI for December, your SSI for January paid early, and your regular Social Security benefit deposited on your usual schedule. This combination is what's driving the big question across the country: why did I get 3 checks? And for millions of people, the answer is simply the timing of the calendar. Nothing more, nothing less. However, while the payment structure is normal for December, there's another layer of concern among beneficiaries, and that's the upcoming COLA increase. The cost of living adjustment always takes effect in January, and every year people rely on that increase to help keep up with rising prices. But the truth is, inflation has been unpredictable, and many people are wondering how much the COLA will actually help next year. Even though the official number is relatively modest, the impact of it still matters, because every dollar counts. December becomes the month when people try to budget ahead, look at their benefit amounts, and figure out whether the higher payout coming in January will be enough to cover their real expenses. And while all of that is happening, the SSA is also dealing with a backlog of claims, delays in processing, and a system that's frankly stretched thinner than ever. So if you're checking your bank account and noticing delays or inconsistencies, it doesn't always mean something is wrong with your benefits. Sometimes, especially around the holidays, banks process things slower. Sometimes the deposit shows pending for a day or 2 before it fully clears. And sometimes there are regional differences that cause certain states to receive payments earlier than others. These little variations create a ripple effect that can leave people feeling confused or anxious when their money doesn't show up at the exact minute they expect it. That's why staying informed is so important, especially in a month like this. December is full of shifting dates, different processing times, and changes that affect people differently depending on their benefit type. Someone who receives SSI will have a totally different experience than someone who only receives Social Security retirement. Someone who is paid on the second Wednesday may see something different than someone paid on the third. And if you're someone who just started receiving benefits within the last year, your schedule might not match the pattern that your friends or family members are familiar with. The SSA uses birthdate-based payment groups, and that system can be confusing if you're not used to it yet. But no matter which group you fall into, the most important thing is understanding your specific payment pattern. If you know what type of benefit you receive, how you're categorized, and which day your benefit normally arrives, you'll be able to see exactly why your December schedule looks the way it does. And if you receive multiple types of benefits like SSI and SSDI, you should always expect December to look a little unusual compared to other months. This is why so many Americans are reporting what feels like extra checks. The money is real, but the reason isn't a surprise once you look at the calendar. Now, let's talk about how this affects budgeting, because that's where many people get tripped up. When you receive the January SSI payment early, it can give the illusion that you have more money for December. But remember, that payment is for the next month, not this one. If you spend both payments in December without planning ahead, January can end up feeling extremely tight financially. And once the holiday season passes, the expenses don't magically go away. Rent still needs to be paid, utilities still come due, and food prices certainly don't drop after New Year's. So it's incredibly important to keep that early January payment aside or budget it carefully so that you don't start the year already struggling. This is also the time when a lot of beneficiaries start double-checking their benefit letters for the upcoming COLA increase. Every December, the SSA sends out notices indicating how much your payment will rise based on the new cost of living percentage. These letters are critical because they tell you the exact amount you can expect starting in January. And while the COLA doesn't always feel like enough, especially when inflation rises faster than benefits, it does help reduce the gap. Even a modest increase helps when you're managing fixed income in a world where everything from groceries to medicine costs more than it did a year ago. Now, something else people worry about around this time is whether receiving multiple payments in December affects their eligibility for other programs like SNAP or Medicaid. Fortunately, the SSA labels the early January check as income for January, not December. That means it shouldn't be counted as December income for programs that look at your monthly resources. But it's still a good idea to keep your award letters and payment records handy, just in case someone reviewing your case needs clarification. Having documentation prevents issues before they start. Another thing that trips people up is the difference between federal payments and state-issued benefits. Some states offer their own supplemental payments for SSI recipients, and those supplemental payments follow different schedules. So you might see a federal payment hit your account on one day and a state payment arrive on a different day. If you've recently moved, or if your state changed their system, these differences can feel confusing. But once again, everything becomes easier to understand once you know who's issuing which payment. And while we're talking about clarity, let's touch on something extremely important. There are scammers who love December. They know people are expecting payments, and they prey on that confusion. If someone calls pretending to be from Social Security asking for your bank information, hang up immediately. The SSA will never call you out of the blue demanding personal details. If you get a text message asking you to click a link to verify your deposit, ignore it. If you receive an email asking for your Social Security number to delay a suspension, delete it. December is one of the highest scam months of the year, and staying aware is critical. You only need to check your benefits through official SSA communication, not through random messages. Now, as we go deeper into this conversation, I want to touch on the emotional side of all of this. For many people, Social Security isn't just a payment, it's stability. It's security. It's peace of mind. When payments arrive early, arrive late, or arrive in multiples, it can easily cause stress. People start wondering if something changed, if they owe money, if the system made a mistake, or if their benefits are being modified without their knowledge. That fear is real, and it's why videos like this are important. The more you understand, the less anxious you feel, and the more prepared you are to manage your finances. And of course, this all circles back to the COLA increase, because that's the other major shift happening right now. Every January, the increase kicks in, and for some people, it's the difference between falling behind and staying afloat. When inflation goes up but benefits stay the same, seniors, disabled individuals, and low-income recipients feel the pressure immediately. So even if the COLA adjustment feels small, it still provides a little breathing room. It helps offset rising prices, even if it doesn't eliminate every challenge. And this upcoming increase is especially important because medical costs, utility bills, and grocery prices have all seen changes that impact households relying on Social Security. As December unfolds, more questions will pop up, questions like why certain people didn't receive the early SSI payment, or why their Social Security benefit looks slightly different than expected. Sometimes the answer is that the SSA updated Medicare premiums, which can change the net amount you receive. Sometimes it's because your banking information changed and needs to be updated. And sometimes it's simply because the SSA is rolling out new yearly adjustments that don't fully take effect until January. The key is knowing that you're not alone, and that these shifts are part of the normal year-end cycle. All of this brings us to a final point. December is about preparation. It's about understanding your payments, planning ahead, and making sure you start the new year with clarity instead of confusion. When you know what to expect, you take control back from the unknown. You make smarter decisions, you avoid unnecessary stress, and most importantly, you protect your financial stability. So as you look at your bank account this month and see 1, 2, or even 3 payments appear, remember that there's a reason behind every deposit. Nothing is random, nothing is accidental. It all comes down to timing, scheduling, and the way the Social Security Administration operates around the holidays. And now that you understand that, you're in a much stronger position to navigate the month with confidence. If this helped you, stay with me because we're going even deeper in upcoming videos: COLA breakdowns, payment calendars, eligibility updates, and everything you need to stay informed. And if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like button so more people can get the accurate information they need.